Walter's Sports Bar has been recognized by many local publications as one of the best sports bars in Washington, D.C., located across the street from Nationals Park and open year-round.
Queen Carvania stood haloed by the morning sun. An army hung on her every word.
My champions, I have sold my chariot on Carvana. 'Twas a lovely SUV, an inexplicably queenly offer. They're even coming to the castle to collect it. Tonight, we feast! An offer you can feast on. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Here is a 1-1 on the way. Swing and a little looper. Shallow right. Going to fall in for a base hit. Wood charging. He will throw towards third. Coming in to score on the play is Davis. The throw to third not in time. Lau in there safely. On a single to right. A run batted in for Valdez. His 17th in the big leagues. And the Pirates add one more. 4 runs home here at the top of the second inning. Now the Pirates 5 and the Nationals 1. Here's the set now. Runners go the pitch. Outside, ball 4. He's walked to run home. Bases still loaded with 2 out. Connor Griffin coming up as the Pirates score their second run of the inning. Now lead this game 7-1.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. Happy July 4th. We hope that you had a happy July 4th. We say happy birthday to our country, the United States of America. As it begins its age 250 season. One of the great traditions with the Nats is their annual 11:05 a.m. home game on July 4th. But, you know, the Nats in these 11:05 a.m. home games on July 4th days now are just 6-8. A 7-1 loss to the Pittsburgh Pirates at Nationals Park on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series as the Nats again failed to get to 4 games above 500. The best that we have seen the Nats do in this surprisingly good 2026 season is 3 games above 500. Nats now 46-44 with a run differential of plus 15. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. Nice to have you with us. We on Saturday night learned of the rosters for the 2026 MLB All-Star Game, which will take place at the Philadelphia Phillies Citizens Bank Park on July 14th. 2 Nats are on the 2026 National League All-Star Team, shortstop CJ Abrams as a starter and outfielder James Wood as a reserve. Congrats to them. Well deserved. We shall see if, say, starting pitcher Foster Griffin finds his way onto the team. But, Mark, we are now 90 games into the Nats 2026 regular season, 90 games down, 72 to go. And how about what we saw on Saturday? The Nats lost 7-1 despite giving up nothing but singles. This game was something. Each of the Pirates' 11 hits was a single. 5 of the Nats' 6 hits were singles. 16 of the game's 17 hits were singles. Somewhere, former Nats infielder Alcides Escobar is smiling. But man, a whole lot of singles at Nationals Park on this July 4th.
So maybe I should not have predicted last night that the ball was going to fly in the 90-degree heat with Zack Littell on the mound. That's not exactly how this one played out. I guess that's why you play the games, because you never know exactly what's going to happen. It was a very strange game. You got a sudden instant burst of offense from both teams early on, and then very little the rest of the way. As you said, it's a lot of singles. Even though, you know, Littell and Palmquist gave up a bunch of runs, it wasn't a whole lot of loud contact. The Pirates just managed to do the right things at the right moments to score those runs. And the Nats, after James Wood in the bottom of the first, basically did nothing the rest of the way against Braxton, Ashcraft, and the Pirates bullpen. And so it was a pretty sleepy 4th of July, to be honest, from the Nationals' standpoint. A hot day. The crowd was very much trying to find whatever shade they could. It was 28,000, but it probably didn't look like it on TV because all the seats in the sun were empty. Everybody went for the shade wherever they could find it. And they just kind of played this one out. And it's unfortunate that a season that's been so exciting in a lot of ways, even when they lose, had kind of a dud here on Independence Day.
Much more on the game in moments, but a very interesting development coming to light after the game. So the Nats' scheduled starting pitcher for Game 3 of this series, Sunday afternoon at 1, was to be Miles Mikolas. Yes, the suspended Miles Mikolas, but he and starting pitcher Cade Cavalli are appealing their suspensions off what happened in Boston this past Tuesday night. Well, Cade Cavalli will be starting Game 3 of this series, not Miles Mikolas. Cavalli will be starting on full rest. But what does this say to you about where these guys are at regarding their suspensions? You posted on X that the appeals do remain in play.
Yeah, and that's why they can do this, of course, because nobody's dropped anything at this point. Cavalli would be on normal rest, so you understand why that would make some sense. And we did talk about how they probably wanted at some point to split up Littell and Mikolas so you don't have the two guys who need openers pitching back to back. This is the way it was originally before Cavalli had the food poisoning several weeks back. So there is some baseball logic to that to split them up. What I'll be curious to see is what happens on Monday. We don't know yet. They were kind of coy about what's going to happen. Is that now just Mikolas's game, or could one of the two drop their appeal, or could one of the two have their appeals heard and ruled on before then? And so you get Cavalli's start on Sunday. I'm going to assume that he's not going to make another start before the All-Star break because at some point that suspension will take place, whether it's reduced or not. And in Mikolas's case, it's either get him out there on Monday to pitch and then he gets suspended after that, or perhaps it is drop the appeal, have somebody else pitch on Monday, and then he can come back at the end of the weekend. We'll see. There's a little bit of strategery to this one as they try to map out how they're going to pitch the rest of this week in the rest of the homestand.
But if Mikolas is going to drop the appeal before pitching again, then what was the point of Mikolas appealing? Shouldn't he at least pitch again before he drops the appeal? Wouldn't that make sense?
It would make more sense, and that's why my original theory was that he would start on Sunday and then maybe drop the appeal on Monday. But perhaps they're doing this the other way around. And two other things to consider here. Cade Cavalli pitched really well this year. We also know it's like his first full big league season, and he had all the seasons of injuries. They're going to have to watch his workload at some point. And if this team thinks it's going to be playing meaningful games all the way to the end, maybe this is a way to get one more start out of him and then give him a little bit of an extended break going into the All-Star break and then coming out of that. So maybe there's a reason behind that to try to kind of put a halt to his innings number for a couple of weeks until he comes back and pitches again in the second half. And in the case of Mikolas, we'll have to do the math and figure out how this all goes. But like, say he does pitch on Monday and then serves a suspension. Well, then you could also have him not need to pitch again until well after the All-Star break. And so maybe in a way he never actually misses a true start. There's a lot of finagling going on here. I don't think we have the full picture yet. Hopefully by Monday at the latest, we'll have a better idea of what exactly they're doing to try to navigate their way through all this.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Cavalli pitches Sunday, Mikolas pitches Monday, and then you can kind of proceed forward from there. The Nats have a 3-game series against the Houston Astros at Nationals Park Monday through Wednesday, and then a 3-game series against the New York Yankees at Nationals Park the following Friday through Sunday, and then that closes out the pre-All-Star break portion of the season. I would also say this, too. These appeals, if they're going to be heard, need to be heard soon, as in like Monday. It's already a little ridiculous that you have to wait multiple days for the appeals to be heard. And I know, you brought up, well, it's a holiday weekend. I mean, you know how it is in sports, man. Like, we work weekends, we work holidays. Like, that's how it is in sports. This is not a 9-to-5 job. So, like, to me, if you're MLB, like, I get it. It's July 4th weekend. But to whatever extent you can hear appeals, I don't think it'd be the end of the world if MLB heard some appeals over the weekend at the latest on Monday. I mean, at that point, it becomes a little ridiculous. These suspensions were levied on Thursday. The appeals presumably were filed on Thursday. That's when the news broke, Thursday night, that these players were making these appeals. Monday at the latest, to me, to hear these appeals.
Al, you and I and Tim are working on July 4th. So let's hold the appeal. We'll hear it. We'll hear it over the weekend. We can rule on it if MLB is not willing to do that. Yeah. The timing is unusual, and maybe the Nats are trying to take full advantage of that, to be honest. And I think we'll have something on Monday, but I truly don't know if you're MLB. Can you hold, there's 4 guys. It's 2 Nats and 2 Red Sox. Can you hold 4 hearings and rule on all 4 within one day? I truly don't know how that works. It could drag on even longer. I don't know. But send them to the court of Galdi and Zuckerman. We'll take care of this right away.
Oh, we will be fair and impartial. Trust me on that. No doubt. In the meantime, a 7-1 loss for the Nats to the Pirates at Nationals Park on Saturday. And the way the game started, you would have thought that the Nats were going to score more than 1 run. James Wood is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, 1 for 2 with a solo homer and 2 walks. He, on the first pitch faced by the Nats in this game, homered. He and the Nats, 1 run first, had a leadoff first pitch home run to right field to tie the game at 1. The homer going a projected 428 feet per StatCast. That was some shot by Wood, but that was the only run of the game for the Nats. 1 run, just 6 hits, which were the home run and 5 singles, 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 11 strikeouts. The Nats did work 5 walks. That was good, but the Nats had a hard time against the Pirates starting pitcher Braxton Ashcraft. He allowed 1 run in 5 2/3 innings with 7 strikeouts. Wood homered, and then not much else from this offense for the rest of the game. Dalen Lyle did have a couple of hits. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a stolen base. But otherwise, a rather quiet performance from this offense.
The way the ball just shot off Wood's bat, very first pitch, and everybody in the park knew it. Headed up to the 3rd deck, the 11th home run in Nationals history to reach the 3rd deck, so he gets a red seat in honor of that. Yeah, you thought, okay, this is going to be a big day for them at the plate. Hot day, get the ball in the air and let it fly. And they did hardly anything else all day. They hit into some double plays, which killed them. They had a big spot in the 7th once they got Ashcraft out of the game. And Nasim Nunez, after back-to-back walks, Nasim Nunez grounds on a double play, another walk of Wood, and now maybe the most significant or most interesting at bat of the day when Andres Chaparro pinch hits for Luis Garcia with 2 on and 2 out in the 7th and ends up striking out. We can discuss the rationale behind that one. But otherwise, just not much going on in this one. And look, the lineup has been so good that you can't get too upset about one off day like this that they had. But it is surprising when it happens because you just don't really expect this from this group, especially when it started as well as it did.
James Wood in the first innings of games in this regular season has an OPS of 1,006, including a slugging percentage of .610. 7 first inning home runs. He has been so good in these first innings. And Blake Butera, during his postgame session with you guys on Saturday afternoon, made the joke that CJ Abrams will talk about how it's 1-0 before he even comes up to hit in these games because Wood is so apt to homer in these first innings.
CJ always jokes from the dugout steps. He always says 1-0, before Woody even comes up, just because of the chance that Woody can do what he did like he did today.
But what a force he has been in these first innings. It's not even that surprising anymore when he homers in a first inning. Like he did this on Saturday, and was there a person in the ballpark who was surprised by that? This is kind of what he does now.
Yeah, I think the only surprising part about it is that it was literally the first pitch from a guy who we know is very patient. Now, he said he went into it with a scouting report. He knew that Ashcraft was more likely to start him off with a fastball than a breaking ball. And so you sit on a fastball, and if you get one over the plate, you ambush it. And man, you saw what happened. So it's a good job by him and the coaching staff of setting him up for success and having an idea of what to look for in that first at bat. You don't get that pitch where you want it, let it go and work the at bat, and who knows what happens. But we've seen Kyle Schwarber do this all the time. First pitch, first inning. If you're going to try to sneak a fastball past him, good luck. I love that kind of plan from James Wood. If you're going to bat him in the leadoff spot, might as well try that kind of thing because it doesn't take much for him to hit the ball out of the park.
Hey, are you a law firm partner looking for a better team? Take your 900 OPS to a championship caliber team by contacting Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas, who is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. market. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across D.C. and the country. Zenith has placed attorneys at almost every top law firm in D.C. and New York. And unlike your current firm's innovation committee, Zenith actually built technology that works. Zenith's proprietary candidate app lets lawyers track where they've been submitted and helps Mason's team identify the best opportunities faster and more efficiently. No other legal recruiting firm has anything like this. Mason regularly works with lawyers from the DOJ, SEC, and law firms looking for better platforms, stronger clients, or, let's be honest, a lot more money, because unlike baseball players, lawyers are not stuck under team control while ownership refuses to spend. And if your current partnership meetings feel more hopeless than Mets fans in October, it may be time to make a move. Bet on yourself with the best legal recruiter out there advocating for your future. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535. That's 202-486-3535.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Well, the managerial wheels are turning. The Pirates call on the 26-year-old left-hander Mason Montgomery for his 35th appearance. 2-3 record, 4.54 ERA, 49 strikeouts in 33 2/3 innings. The Nationals will counter with a pinch hitter. Andres Chaparro is going to bat for Luis Garcia Jr. with runners at the corners and the Nationals trailing 5-1.
All right, bottom of the seventh, runners at the corners, 2 outs. Nats down 5-1. Blake Butera pinch hits Andres Chaparro for Luis Garcia Jr. as Mason Montgomery is in the game. There is a statistical rationale for this, but the result is not going to win any supporters for Chaparro. He struck out swinging on 4 pitches. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, all right. In the moment, you're saying to yourself, Luis Garcia is just on fire right now. Andres Chaparro, yes, he homered over the Green Monster the other day, but beyond that, really has done very little, as we have discussed here for quite a while now this season. So it feels like a case where you say, well, why not just let the lefty face the lefty? And in fact, Garcia has better numbers against lefties than Chaparro does this year. And almost, it's a few less at bats, but not a lot. 33 at bats versus 43 at bats. So Garcia bats .242 and slugs .424 against lefties. Not great, but not bad. Chaparro against lefties, .163 average, .302 slugging. Really, really weak. And so, yes, the platoon matchup might make sense, but right now, one hitter is clearly better than the other. So why not just let the hot lefty hitter stand? Now, Butera's answer, and there is logic behind this, is that it has less to do with who his hitters are and more to do with who the pitcher is.
No, it's just a pretty clear, really tough matchup, left on left. Mason Montgomery's one of the best lefties in the game. That's not an easy at-bat for any left-handed hitter. And Chappie's here to hit lefties, so he's going to get that opportunity to do so.
And if you look at Mason Montgomery's splits, here they are. Versus right-handers, they hit .273 off him with a .455 slugging percentage. Pretty solid. Versus lefties, they hit .143 and slug only .214 off him. That is a tremendously difficult at-bat for a left-handed hitter against a tough left-handed pitcher. So that all makes sense. I get that. I think the issue here is not so much the idea of pinch hitting for Garcia. It's that your only option to pinch hit for him is Andres Chaparro, who, as we know, just hasn't done what he's supposed to do as a big righty hitter who mashes lefties. And maybe the peripherals say it's going to happen at some point. And yes, it did happen in one at-bat the other day in Boston, but for the most part, it hasn't. So my issue isn't necessarily the problem being that you're not going to let Garcia face the lefty. It's why don't you have a better righty to face him instead? And if you don't have a better righty, maybe make that decision less on who the pitcher is and more on who your hitting options are.
As we are speaking, Yohandy Yo-Yo Morales for your AAA Rochester Red Wings has an OPS of 926. I am sure the Nats have their reasons for not having called up Morales to the majors. But, man, it is tough to watch Chaparro do as he does and then look at what Morales is doing and you say, how come one guy is at the major league level and one guy is at the minor league level? The other interesting thing, I think, with all this is the following. And this would be, I think, a very compelling philosophical conversation with a Paul Taboni or an Ani Kalambi or a Blake Butera. When you're talking righty, lefty, righty matchups and platoon splits and all that kind of a thing, whose platoon split stats matter more, the pitchers or the batters, right? We know that the Nats with Taboni and Kalambi and Butera are big on righty-lefty matchups and platoon splits and that kind of a thing. I would love to know, like, what they see from what they've studied, from the information and data that the team has gathered. Whose splits matter more, the pitcher's splits or the batter's splits? Because it's not always an easy decision to say who should be batting against a pitcher when you look at the various stats that each guy has.
100%. And that's the dilemma in this one, where if you care more about your own hitters, then Garcia is the better matchup. But if you care more about who they're facing, who the pitcher is, then you say, well, Montgomery is clearly better against lefties, so we need to send up the righty instead. And that is going to be the dilemma. And then they clearly, and this is both from a hitting standpoint and a pitching standpoint, almost always are going with the platoon advantage. And it doesn't always work out, but it's pretty clear that they believe that you go with the platoon advantage every opportunity you get, almost regardless of what the numbers would say, but just straight up righty versus lefty versus, lefty versus lefty. So I do find that interesting. I'd also love to know, do they allow in there any room for recent streakiness or how hot a guy is or, the confidence that Luis Garcia has when he steps to the plate versus maybe the lack of confidence that an Andres Chaparro has when he steps to the plate. And I see you smiling right now because I know that you know that the analytics guys couldn't care less about any of that stuff.
You get kicked out of the room if you bring up that kind of thing, okay? You bring up streakiness, you bring up intuition, you bring up gut, you bring up anything kind of that, man. They kick you right out of that room. I can promise you that. The Nats in this 7-1 loss to the Pirates at Nationals Park on Saturday used an opener. Relief pitcher Carson Palmquist, he officially allowed 4 runs in 1 inning, although 3 of the runs were scored with him out of the game. But he gave up 4 hits, all of which were singles, and issued a hit by pitch. He did have 3 strikeouts versus no walks, but Palmquist in the top of the first allowed a run on 2 singles and 3 stolen bases, including a killer play, a 2-out double steal that included Connor Griffin stealing home for a 1-0 Pirates lead as nobody was covering second base.
Now the pitch, runner at first going, is in for a strike. Millis throws through. Abrams behind the bag has it. Now the throw back to the plate will not be in time. And that was not executed well at all by the Nationals. Something didn't go right there because Millis throwing through. If he's going to throw through, normally the shortstop, whoever's covering second, is going to break in front of the bag. And Abrams wasn't even at the bag. He was behind the bag when the throw went through. And then his return throw to the plate too high for Millis to get the tag down in time, and the Pirates execute the double steal and lead 1-0.
Catcher Drew Millis' throw to second base went to shortstop CJ Abrams well behind the second base bag. And then Abrams' throw home was way off, in part because he bumped into the runner who stole second base, Brian Reynolds, who went into second base standing up. And so they bumped into each other, and it actually kind of looked like when Cade Cavalli and Wilson Contreras bumped into each other at the end of the bottom of the first on Tuesday night. No word on what Abrams may have said to Reynolds or vice versa. But, man, that play was such a mess for the Nats, who have been better defensively. So I don't want to harp on this too much, but that was an ugly-looking play.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I apologize here that I didn't ask about that after the game. I kind of forgot about it, and my colleagues did as well because nobody asked. I would have loved to know. Clearly, one of the two, Millis or Abrams, was in the wrong there. They have set plays for those situations, first and third. If they steal, what are we going to do? Are we going to throw all the way down to second? Are we going to back pick at third? Are we going to throw to second, but it's the shortstop's job to cut it off and be ready to come back to the plate? Or are we just going to hold on to the ball? There are a lot of different things they could do there. I don't know what was called there. And then I don't know which of the two got it wrong, because clearly they did not call throw it down, but have the shortstop not even cover and get to it too late to make the throw back to the plate. That was an ugly play. And in a closer game, maybe that would have really stood out even more. Hopefully it's addressed and that doesn't happen again, because that was not very pretty.
So that happened, and then we had starting pitcher Zack Littell come into the game to serve as the Nats' bulk pitcher. His final line was quite good, 1 run in 6 innings, but that would be the official final line. He and the Pirates' 3-run second gave up 3 singles in allowing 3 inherited runners to score. So that initial inning for Littell, not good, but he then was good. He tossed scoreless 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. He, for the outing, gave up just 4 hits, all of which were singles, 3 strikeouts versus 1 walk, issued a wild pitch, threw a good number of strikes, 87 pitches, 57 strikes, 30 balls. Littell is not necessarily why the Nats lost this game, but him allowing those 3 inherited runners to score was bad. And you asked Blake Butera an interesting question during the post-game session with you guys, and that is, hey, in an instance like this, where you're going opener then Littell, if there are runners on base, why not go opener, reliever, and then Littell, and allow Littell to start off clean? Knowing what we know about Zack Littell, might that make more sense? Now, I thought Butera's answer was interesting. Hey, Littell has been a reliever. He has experience doing this kind of thing. We trust him in that spot. Clearly, Littell did not come through in that spot.
Right. And Littell said basically the same thing, like, hey, I've been there before. That's not that unusual for me to enter a game like that. It's a tough spot for anybody. I don't know what you can reasonably expect even from the best reliever to come in with the bases loaded and nobody out and what's going to happen. But it does kind of point out like this thing, when you use the opener, it's great when everything goes according to plan. But when something goes askew, it's hard to adjust like that. Do you get a late inning reliever warming up as he starts to get into trouble, not knowing if you're going to need to bring him in or not? So maybe Palmquist gets out of it and you never bring him in. Well, now you've warmed up a guy without using him who you may not need until much later in the game. That's never a spot you want to be in as a manager. You could leave Palmquist in. You don't know how that's going to go. You bring Littell in, trusting him, and he didn't do a terrible job, but he did allow the runners to score. Now, he was fine after that. It's the potential pitfalls of using the opener as opposed to just letting a guy start the game, or just saying, hey, Palmquist, you're going 1 inning and then you're out, or you're going 2 innings no matter what, and then the bulk guy is going to come in to start a clean inning. So it gets tricky there. I understand in the moment it's hard to have somebody else warming up and throw them into the fire like that, especially if it turns out you don't need them. Now you've burned them up potentially. But if you're going to do the opener, you have to be ready to adapt if it doesn't go exactly as planned. I don't know what their initial plan here was. Maybe they wanted Palmquist to go further originally, decided we can't push this any further, but you end up putting your veteran starter into an awkward spot coming in with the bases loaded in the 2nd inning.
And there was an element of the Nats getting BABIP'd in this game. I mean, like we said, 11 hits by the Pirates. All of them were singles and not exactly a ton of hard contact. So there was an element of some bad puck luck, as we like to say, in this game. The Nats in this game, beyond the opener, Carson Palmquist, and the bulk man, Zack Littell, used just one pitcher, Riley Cornelio. He allowed 2 runs in 2 innings. He, in the top of the 8th, allowed 2 runs on 3 singles and 2 walks. He did then toss a perfect top in the 9th, and he, over his 2 innings, did record 3 strikeouts. But man, it at times has been a rough watch with Riley Cornelio. It's a small sample size at the major league level, I'll grant you, but 5 games, 11 1/3 innings. His ERA is 7.94. His WHIP is 2.21. He has issued 12 walks in 11 1/3 innings. I get it. The Nats aren't exactly overflowing with relief pitching options. A decent number of relievers are injured right now. But still, I wonder about Cornelio and whether this guy is in a position he has no business being in, and that is pitching at the major league level right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he should be up here, to be honest. And if you are only going to be using him in these kind of super low leverage mop-up duties, is he actually getting out of it what he needs? Now, the question then becomes, how much does the organization still really believe in him as a long-term piece? coming into the season, based on what they saw in spring training, they said, "Ooh, this guy looks legit. He could be a future starter for us, maybe as a reliever." What they've done since, we've discussed. I don't love how it's all played out, but he hasn't exactly pitched his way into a spot where they should trust him to be used differently, either as a starter or as a high leverage reliever. And so it just left them in this awkward position now where he's here, but he's really not pitching in situations of great consequence. He's not making the most of those opportunities when he does. I'd love to know deep down, have they changed their mind, what they think about him for the future. What we've seen so far maybe suggests that he's not a big part of the plan. But right now it is. It's a very tough watch, and it's all about command, lack of throwing strikes, high pitch counts. Like, even if you're going to use a guy in that kind of spot, you want to believe they at least will throw strikes and give you length. And when you're walking a hitter with the bases loaded late in a game that you're already trailing by a bunch of runs, it's not a great way to endear yourself to the coaching staff.
No, I mean, he's averaging more than a walk per inning, which is just horrendous. Again, it's a small sample size, but like, it has not been pleasant so far. So hopefully things get better for him.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's ODOO.com to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
And the Nationals have James Wood coming to bat. First pitch driven to deep right field. Forget it. Going. Gone. Goodbye. In and out of the third deck. Dropping down below. Bang. Zoom goes James Wood with a Titanic home run, his 23rd of the year. And just like that, one pitch into the bottom of the first inning, this game is tied. It's the Nationals 1 and the Pirates 1.
So some very nice news coming out on Saturday night. The Nats, as we anticipated, have two players on the 2026 National League All-Star team. Shortstop CJ Abrams did make it as a starter, and outfielder James Wood made it as a reserve. Believe it or not, this is the first time that the Nats have at least two position players in an All-Star game since 2021, since the first year of this podcast. Your Nationals All-Stars over the life of this podcast. 2021, the Nats actually had four All-Stars. Starting pitcher Max Scherzer, DH Kyle Schwarber, outfielder Juan Soto, shortstop Trey Turner. 2022, one All-Star, Soto. 2023, one All-Star, starting pitcher Josiah Gray. 2024, two All-Stars, shortstop CJ Abrams and closer Kyle Finnegan. And if memory serves, Finnegan was added like the day before the All-Star game that year. And then last year, the Nats had two All-Stars, outfielder James Wood, starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. So two position players for the Nats. We hope maybe possibly Foster Griffin can find his way onto the team. I don't know how likely that is, but good for Abrams, good for Wood. Obviously, very well deserved. These two guys, two cornerstone pieces for this team, All-Stars for the 2026 season.
And for Abrams, this is pretty amazing. He's the first national shortstop ever to be voted in as a starter, the All-Star game. They've had some pretty good ones over the years, led, of course, by Trey Turner. So that's something. Just take a step back. Look at who the shortstops in the National League are. And I understand some of them were hurt this year, maybe not having great seasons. But you're talking about Mookie Betts, Ellie De La Cruz, Dansby Swanson, Trey Turner. there is some real star power at that position. And CJ Abrams won a national fan vote, not just because of local fans, but nationally around the sport. And yes, he deserved it, 100%. He was the best shortstop in the first half of this season. But I'm just really glad to see the entire baseball world recognize that on a team that maybe doesn't get as much attention as some of those other ones do. Great for him as he moves forward in his career. And it's a testament to him, the way he has performed consistently from day one this year. This is a big deal, I think, for CJ Abrams. Now, James Wood had every right to be right there with him in the starting lineup. And we understand that the voting there in the outfield maybe cost him for who knows what reasons. But he gets voted in by his fellow players, and that tells you that they do recognize just how good he is. And it's now second straight year for him to be in this. He was, by the way, asked about the home run derby, and he gave just a very quick, I'm not sure answer.
We'll see. We'll see.
To be determined on that one, whatever will happen. I know we've all been wondering. It's nice to see a year in which two legitimate star players on this team are fully recognized, one by the fans, one by his fellow players, and that they're going to go there to Philadelphia, and there isn't a shred of question whether or not they should be there, whether they are deserving of those spots. They are absolutely deserving, and it's good for the Nationals to start getting this kind of attention, for people around the sport to realize how well the team's playing, but they've got real star players here on this team for the first time in a while.
Absolutely. And, you think about Wood and Abrams, and if they're here for the long haul, I mean, these guys could be perennial all-stars. These guys could wind up with, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 all-star appearances. Like, who knows what you're talking about here? But, like, these are two guys who could be mainstays in terms of MLB all-star games for years to come. I do think, though, that mystery of how Abrams got voted as a starter and Wood did not is just so peculiar. And I still have not heard a really good theory for what happened here. Because if you're going by what each guy is doing, so both should be all-stars, but Wood is having the better season, okay? Like, Wood's numbers pop out at you in a way that Abrams don't quite. Wood outdoes Abrams in most offensive categories, and we know about Abrams' defense. Bad start to the season, better lately, but still, I mean, you wouldn't say that he's having some, stellar defensive campaign. And that Wood was so behind Abrams in terms of the votes received. It's just so odd. And I don't know how this happened. And I don't know that we ever will know how this happened. But it's just so strange that this happened because it's so obvious that Wood should be in the All-Star game. I'm happy for CJ Abrams, but I don't get why the same people who voted for Abrams weren't voting for Wood. And I guess that does speak to what you were just talking about, which is that a lot of the votes for Abrams came from people around the country, and that maybe a lot of Nats fans didn't vote for these guys, and that the voting representation from Nats fans maybe wasn't as high as we might think. That would be the only thing I can think of for why Abrams got so many more votes than Wood got.
The only other theory I've heard, and it's silly, but I guess there may be something behind it, is the alphabetical issue, where Abrams is listed first among the shortstops and Wood was at the bottom. And if you had to scroll down and, you've got to pick three outfielders and you saw three names that stood out to you before you ever got to Wood, that maybe you missed out on that altogether. I mean, I would hope there aren't that many people voting like that, but, we know when it comes to voting in America, it's not always the most intelligent decisions. I'm just going to leave it at that and just say that we want to give the general population credit for really smart, intelligent voting. It doesn't always work that way. And maybe that had a little something to do with this. I'm just going to leave it right there and not, step in any more mud here.
But we know that Nats fans are smart, like knowing, especially the listeners of this podcast, like these are smart, successful people, right? So they're going to vote for the All-Star game. Hey, CJ Abrams. Hey, James Wood. Oh, I don't see Wood's name right away. Oh, I must have to scroll down, right? Like, you don't need to have a PhD to figure that out. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird that it played out like that. But look, they're both going to the All-Star game. That's what matters. Ultimately, I don't even know how much it matters who starts, who doesn't. And I'm happy for both guys. And Like I said, I mean, I don't know how likely Foster Griffin making his way onto the team is. I guess a lot of that will depend on who drops out, who can't pitch in the game, etc. I would hope, though, that Griffin is on the short list in terms of, hey, if a starter or two can't pitch, doesn't want to pitch, whatever the case may be, that Griffin is on that short list to be called to be in the game.
I agree with that. And I think he should be, on that short list. And it is a little easier as a pitcher to get added later on. You mentioned Finnegan. That was like literally the day before. Guys do drop out because of when they pitched. If you pitch over the weekend, then you're ineligible to appear in the game. And so they do have last minute substitutions for that reason. And at least coming into the day on Saturday, Griffin ranks 9th in the National League in ERA, 5th in WHIP, tied for 6th in wins. It's not a slam dunk case, but it's enough of a case that you would say, if there are substitutes to be added, he should absolutely be in consideration for it.
100%. I mean, those stats to me say all-star. So we'll hope for the best with Foster Griffin. Would have been interesting, too, if Luis Garcia Jr. was doing what he's doing a bit earlier, to what extent he might have been a candidate. A lot of times a guy like that who kind of comes out of nowhere to be great, he's not going to be recognized that season for an all-star game, but he's been so good that you wonder if had the surge started a bit sooner, if he might have had a shot at making the all-star team, or if that probably just was never going to be a thing for him this season.
If he was May instead of June, that hot streak, I think there's more of a case for it. He's certainly caught up to the rest of the pack, but it was probably a little bit too late to have that kind of impact.
This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Yeah, it's awesome. Me and James go way back to San Diego, and now we're over here doing our thing, so it's going to be fun.
Now Jacks to the belt. First base side of the rubber delivers, and a swing and a long drive right center field. This way back. This ball is going, and gone. Goodbye. 2 rows deep into the seats in deep right center field, well to the left of the 382-foot marker. Bang! Zoom goes CJ Abrams with home run number 15 and RBI number 55. It's the Nationals 1 and the Rays nothing.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.